let's get a look-see. Holy moly. If I'm gonna have a fried chicken sandwich, I want it to be 3 things: crunchy, juicy, and well seasoned. Well, luckily, I have one in my very near future because today I'm gonna make fried chicken sandwiches that are so good, especially because we're gonna make it with a hot cherry pepper mayonnaise sauce. So I'm gonna get started first by putting together a seasoning blend. But I'm gonna start with some kosher salt. Need about 1.5 teaspoons. And a teaspoon of some black pepper. Once you get to know your pepper mill, I know that may sound a little strange, but you will know how many turns it takes to get the amount you want. Okay. All right, a little extra. Not gonna kill anybody. And then I have some paprika. It's gonna help for a little bit of flavor as well as put a little bit more color on everything. And I have some garlic powder, 1 teaspoon. And I've got some dried thyme. I'm gonna do a 1/2 teaspoon of that. Just give it a little bit of extra savory kind of back note to the flavors overall, a little bit of that fresh herby flavor, along with some sage, 1/2 teaspoon of the dried sage. And finally, some cayenne pepper. If you don't love spicy things or you're cooking for people that don't love spicy things, you can reduce that to a pinch. Just gonna give this a good little mix here. And as I said, we're using this spice mixture on both the chicken and in the flour mixture. So I'm gonna put a tablespoon in this bowl, set this guy aside for my chicken. So I've got flour right over here. I'm gonna do a 1.5 cups. Okay. And it's just the regular all-purpose flour. If you are a gluten-free person, I'm sure you could do the 1-to-1 flour substitute. And then also some baking powder. I'm gonna do a teaspoon of the baking powder. And the baking powder is gonna help in 2 ways. It's gonna help provide the coating with a little bit of lift to give it a little bit of extra structure. And then it's also gonna help to promote some browning on the chicken as well. So let me just mix this. I'm gonna add a little water to my dry flour mixture. And it does feel a little counterintuitive to add it at this stage, but what it's gonna do is add some of the crunchy, craggy bits that are the best parts of any fried anything. So that was 3 tablespoons of just regular water. And I'm gonna go in there with my fingers and combine it. You wanna press the flour and the water together with your fingers, and you'll see the flour kind of gets a little bit shaggy. Just make sure everything is incorporated just so that you don't have any dry pockets. And then finally, some eggs. The eggs are gonna be the glue, but we're not gonna use whole eggs. I'm gonna use just 2 egg whites. Now, I did do the whites in a bowl just to make sure I didn't get any shell or anything in there, but I'm going to transfer them to a larger bowl, or if you have a shallow dish, that's fine too. And I'm just gonna gently whisk them because I want them to get a little foamy. It's gonna help be kind of like a thicker glue for the flour mixture to coat the chicken. All right, I have to clean up, wash my hands, but then I'm gonna go grab the chicken. So I have 2 boneless, skinless chicken breasts here, and they're between 6 and 8 ounces. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I just wanna trim them of any visible fat, which I think these actually look pretty good. These have a little bit of fat just there on the side. I like to use a sharp boning knife, but you could also use a chef's knife. All right, so that is nice and trimmed. I'm gonna cut them in half crosswise so that it makes 4 even pieces. All right. And now, I'm just gonna pat the chicken dry just to wick away any moisture. It's gonna help that coating really stick onto the chicken nicely. Now, I've got some plastic wrap because I'm going to pound the chicken. I'm gonna pound them into 1/2 inch thick pieces. And that's because I want each piece to be even in thickness so that it cooks evenly. I'll top it with the top of the plastic wrap here. Okey-doke. And now we have that reserved spice mixture from earlier, so I'm just gonna sprinkle all over. Okay, now it is chicken coating time. I've got my assembly row all set, and the landing spot for me is a rim baking sheet that I put a wire rack in, because this is going to go in the fridge after it's coated, and that's gonna help the coating to set, and it's also gonna help the seasoning, the salt, to get in there in the chicken. So using one wet hand, one dry hand, I've got my foamy egg whites. You can really see it coats nicely, and because we whipped it, it really is a nice thick texture. And then into our seasoned flour mixture. So remember, we have the craggy pieces. Those are gonna be super crunchy and nice and big. It's gonna make eating a fried chicken sandwich even more pleasurable than eating a fried chicken sandwich. All right, now shake off any excess, and then just put that on the wire rack. All right, really get in there. Be one with your chicken. You also could use pork for this recipe. You could use boneless chicken thighs for this recipe. It's a really versatile method here. You just need to probably extend the cooking time if you do use chicken thighs, because it is a darker piece of meat. I'm gonna clean up, wash my hands, put this in the fridge, and leave it in there for about 30 minutes, but you can leave it in there for up to an hour. And it's an important step, don't skip it, because the salt from the seasoning is gonna penetrate into the chicken. And that's gonna obviously help to season it, but it's also going to keep it really nice and juicy, sort of like a dry brine situation. And then another thing it does while it's in the fridge is it gives it time for the coating to set. I'm gonna clean up, go wash my hands, and then when we come back, it's time to fry. Let's get the oil preheated here. I wanted to get up to 375 degrees over medium-high heat. Now I'm using vegetable oil, but you also could use peanut oil. Just make sure the oil that you do fry with is neutral. Like olive oil wouldn't work here, too much flavor. I'm gonna leave this digital thermometer in there the whole time, and that's gonna help to tell me that the oil is registering at the correct temperature. Again, 375 degrees, and it's a big Dutch oven, which is safer for deep frying. So now let's make our sauce. So the base of the sauce is mayonnaise, and mayonnaise is just delicious on its own, obviously, but why don't we kick it up a couple notches with some hot cherry peppers? All right, so I need about a cup. So I'm just gonna grab them. You could use sweet cherry peppers or any kind of pickly deliciousness that's hanging out in your fridge. I'm going to pat them dry first. It'll be much safer when chopping. I don't want these sliding all over my cutting board. And then I'm just gonna take the stems off each pepper. And now I wanna take the seeds out of the peppers. And I'm just gonna use like a quarter teaspoon. It just kind of helps get in there, sort of like coring an apple, just around the interior of the pepper. And the reason I'm removing the seeds is just because it's gonna make the texture of the sauce a little bit better. I wouldn't wanna be biting down on crunchy seeds. If there are a few in there, not the end of the world, but this will help. Now just wiping up the board because I need to make sure it's good and dry. Otherwise it wouldn't be safe. I'll move you guys over here. And now I'm going to finely chop the cherry peppers, and the best way to do that is have them and then cut them into quarters. So you don't really have to be too precise here. Just make sure they're finely chopped. And don't forget to check on your oil. I did just turn my burner down just because I saw that it was climbing up. There's something about using a pickled product in a fried sandwich or fried anything. It just kind of helps to cut through that richness. And you could really use this in a lot of different applications. You could use it on potato salad. You could do, any kind of like dressing for a sub or a grinder. I'm just going to transfer these to the bowl. And before I put that jar away, this is another trick up my sleeve that I always walk around with. I'm going to use some of the pickle brine, and that is something you can also do when, I know I mentioned potato salads, but when you have potatoes that are cooling after being cooked, what you can do is drizzle some of the brine from any kind of pickly thing, and it just helps to give it a little bit of acidic kick. It's really good. Add that in there, 1 teaspoon, and I need some pepper, half a teaspoon of pepper. Not going to add any salt because it's definitely probably collected enough salt while it's been pickled. Okay. And then lastly, our mayonnaise. We need a half a cup. Also coleslaw. How good would this be in some coleslaw? Yum, yum. All right, now I'm gonna mix this until everything is combined. How's my oil? A little warm. And don't forget, when you put the chicken in, it will drop in temperature. So if it's climbing to about 380, which mine is, I'm just gonna decrease the heat just a little bit. I wanna make sure it hovers at 375. All right, I'm gonna put this in the fridge and grab our chicken. Okay, my oil is up to temperature, 375 degrees, and I'm gonna add our chicken. And sort of drag it just a little bit, kind of helps to, I mean, obviously it's safer, you don't want it bubbling up at you, but it just helps to set the coating a bit too, I think. All right, and just prevent any sticking, I'm just going to just separate some of the chicken that kind of clumped together. I'm gonna cook the chicken about 4 to 5 minutes, and I'm gonna go in there, flip it halfway through cooking, and I'll know it's done when it registers 160 degrees and is super golden brown. These look so good. And I can smell the spices too. I can't wait to try these. So you can use tongs. I'm using a spider. I'm gonna let the chicken cool on a clean wire rack for about 5 minutes. It is time for our fried chicken sandwiches. All right, I am gonna cut this baby in half. Let's get a look-see. Holy moly. I'm going in. This is no joke. I got the 3 things I wanted: crunchy, juicy, and so well seasoned. Fried chicken sandwiches with a hot cherry pepper mayonnaise. Thanks for watching. The link for this recipe is in the description below. And also, while you're down there, leave a comment for me because I want to know what your favorite fried chicken sandwich is.